Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. In this episode, I'm really going to try to keep everything gameplay. I mean, we're going to talk about the war as we play, but keep it gameplay and keep the episode much shorter. Last episode of 2 hours was a bit too long. Okay, let's just continue this. I'm jumping jumping a third airborne division down here. Hopefully to overwhelm these people. Saudi Arabia is mobilizing okay. Yes, they joined if you remember last time. The Axis, in my opinion, of course, is it's best to... Uh-oh. We lost a... Pack concluded. Yes, we're okay. Best to keep them neutral, but I don't know that the AI will do so. Why don't you come back home? Rebase, I don't know, passively maybe. You don't fight too hard. Well, actually, let's head down here. Move first, because I think the other guys went to there. You don't need to bump into them. So we have, this may be the previous bit of a bug going back and forth between Vichy in and out of the Axis. Okay. Uh-oh, wow, our CVLs are all beat up here now. Okay, we've lost a heavy cruiser. Okay, head back up to Vietnam. I think we're here. Okay, yeah, you guys more CVLs, but some heavier ships. You move down here. So you're operating here. You don't have enough supplies. So, come down, rebase down to here. That may be the solution to your supply problem and your organization, so you can actually sink more. You guys are, I think, doing okay sinking ships out here. Yeah, looks like we're getting a few. I think those are us. One, yeah. Okay, so I don't think there's any resources, so let's just sort of, I guess, well, no, I'm going to send a police unit around, I think, to wander around and collect formations. We got a bunch of garrison troops. No, you're not there yet, but you're getting there. Probably should have put you into the port, but I didn't at first want to go into this sea province. Vichy leaves allies, yeah. I have had reports that that happens daily. It's happened once before in this series. Don't know if you can hear it, but it is pouring outside. Maybe not quite like my friend Azad's pouring in Assam. I understand the monsoons could be very significant in Assam, but it is, for Southern California, it is pouring. So yeah, that's pouring rain. If there was a confusion on that issue, I don't know. Okay, so we're now doing a battle of Suda Strait and take out a light cruiser. Okay, and we have some more oil here. Used a baseline of 4. What's the baseline up here? 5. Current active. Okay, well that isn't. 2. Revolt risk needs to be reduced. Okay. Okay, you're here now. I just think pushing in. You try some ground attack. You're probably too far away, but we'll... No, you're not. You join in the ground attack. Okay, cool. We have one up here. I think that would be useful. And even though they're sort of beat up, they'll support. Okay, we got the Calcutta and the Devonshire. Heavy cruiser. Devonshire. Okay. Well. Last we checked, they had a lot of air power there. I want to get these guys across that river, so... Oh good, they held on long enough. Good. We got these guys marching to relief. Okay, pursue. Use your infantry tanks. That's basically, like I said, we're going to stick to war topics. There was one American tank that served in basically, I would say, all theaters of operation. Depends on sort of how you want to divide it up, and that is the M3 medium, as the Americans knew it. The Lee, or when they changed the turret, the Grant. The British knew it, and post-war the Americans have called it that. And at some later stage, they sort of adopted some of the American names, I mean the British names for the American tanks. But yeah, and because it served in North Africa, it served in Russia through Lend-Lease. So is that the European theater of operations? Maybe, but it definitely served. Don't know that it actually served in Italy in a combat role, but we have definite photographic evidence of it serving in Italy and in post D-Day advance across Europe as a recovery tank, meaning they had removed the guns from it and put cranes and whatnot as a recovery vehicle. And it served in the Pacific, and it served in the CBI, China, Burma, India theater, which I do put out as a distinctly thing different than the Pacific, because, oh look, it's happening in the Indian Ocean. It's affected by the Pacific War, most assuredly, but it is, very much part of the war against Japan. But as I've been talking, I really wanted to fight the Pacific War, as defined differently than the war in China which we did earlier and other things. But so it served down there, and it, in ways, I would say meets the definition of an infantry tank. The Americans before it, I guess it would be the M2 medium that you sort of see in War Thunder, that has just a 37 millimeter gun and lots of machine guns everywhere, machine guns sticking out in all directions. The Americans' infantry tanks were machine gun heavy. They were the cult of the machine gun, most assuredly. And so that's what they did. You guys are retreating because of why, I'm not sure. Well, you guys attack here and attack here. You know, so, and they went overboard on machine guns. But so I sort of like, for what it was sort of a stopgap measure. The British were like, we need a bigger gun on a tank. And the Americans were like, well, yeah, we'll build you that. No, we need it now. We can't build a turret big enough right now today to put a big 75 millimeter gun in there. They just didn't supposedly have immediately setting up in any of the factories that were available or whatever the ability to cast a turret, and they wanted to do a cast turret. They didn't like some of the British, like you see on the Crusaders, that they're riveted turrets. Rivets are a weak point in any armor. They do have a lot of rivets on most 90+% of the Lee Grants. There was a cast hole version that they made like 50 tanks or something, and there was some welded hole versions, I believe, too. Also small production numbers. But the turret, because it's smaller, and you're either going to have really sort of flat sides, or if you're going to angle the turrets at all, you're going to have lots of angles, so you're going to have lots of small riveted plates. So the Americans were just not having the idea of a riveted turret on the tank. They were going to go cast turret. And they just couldn't quite build a turret big enough with the turret ring big enough to cast it as a one-piece thing at the time. I don't know whether it's weeks, months. It's not that long later that you start getting the Shermans into production, big time. But it's just sort of like, today, now, no, we can't. And that is a thing. They know, not today, can't, now. But so they developed this tank that the Lee version is a 7-man tank. The Grant version is a 6-man tank. And it's really actually pretty good. The main gun is stabilized, meaning, you know, like a M1 Abrams. I didn't realize this until, within the last like 2 or 3 years. I didn't realize the Americans had stabilized guns in their tanks. I thought that was something that was, you know, in the 80s. But no, they had a stabilized main gun in it. There was a problem with the stabilized main gun. It was secret. So the manuals were secret. And very few people got trained on them. So most of the crews couldn't figure out, didn't know how to work them literally. And so they either removed it, the stabilization gear, or I don't even know if they gave the manuals to the British at all, or it got published. They were so paranoid that it was going to get out to the Germans on how to operate it and how it worked. Or remove some of the stabilization, or just simply turned it off and didn't stabilize it. And then, you know, so yeah, but it was well done for what it was in the early days against the 37 millimeter German Panzers, against the short-barreled Panzer IVs without the heat rounds. Because you remember, early days with those short-barreled Panzer IVs, they didn't have the high-explosive anti-tank, you know, the Monroe effect type rounds. They just had sort of slow big penetrators or high explosive, good for blowing up bunkers. If you're not really playing War Thunder, you're playing real stuff. Those are actually pretty hard to penetrate. Depends, but often the 37 millimeter would actually penetrate some of the armor better, I do believe. Though I'd have to look that up to be sure. But generally, it's not a good. We should get these guys go over to the port because we want to get them somewhere else to fight in another war. So, you know, so it's a pretty good vehicle. The turret on it, well, the Lee version, the American initial version, has a turret with a independent armored cupola on it that had another, you know, 30 caliber machine gun in it. The British thought that was getting him was unneeded and getting the tank even too tall, so they didn't like that. They took them early on, but they asked for a new turret that was bigger, but the same turret ring diameter, so they could sort of cast a little bit bigger, but they couldn't make the turret ring or something. I don't quite know, but they didn't. That's sort of why they couldn't. It's why they couldn't make the 75 millimeter gun be the gun in the turret. So they did the 37 millimeter gun. But that 37 millimeter gun and the coax and the machine gun that goes with it, not the one that's up on top on the little mini turret, but on the turret one, are designed as anti-aircraft guns, because they can point way up into the sky. Even on the later British version, they still, if you look at it, has a really high-angled front face, and that wasn't designed primarily, I mean, it's a secondary benefit, but wasn't designed to be a shell deflection. It was designed because you needed that to be able to point the machine gun and the main gun up into the air to shoot aircraft down. That's what they were thinking they were going to do with the thing. Now, we can look at reality, how likely you are to be in a turret, to know that there's an aircraft coming to strafe at you, to be able to swing it while you're in the turret, looking through a narrow gun sight, to get the thing around and get it up onto the incoming aircraft and shoot at it before it's passed over. You can imagine how that is a practical impossibility. Now, when you got an open-top vehicle and an open-top machine gun, and the guy swiveling his head around and can, be looking at the aircraft with his eyes, head turned, you can't see me doing this, and swinging the gun around, you can reasonably get it somewhat on target. Doesn't mean you're actually going to shoot the aircraft down, but you can at least get the thing on target in the time allotted before the aircraft flies away. But not inside the thing. But, which is why the reason they liked it in both CBI and out in the Pacific, is that the 37 millimeter gun was generally good enough to penetrate just about any Japanese armor you get in front of, and the 75 millimeter gun can shoot the same ammunition as the Sherman. Sometimes they have a shorter barrel, but so it's not going quite as fast, but so even that gun is even better at taking out Japanese tanks. But if something sort of surprises you on the side, you can move the smaller turret around. But that high angle shooting up was really good. Oh, and part of the thing they developed to be able to shoot the aircraft out of, the reason I can say clearly it's a anti-aircraft turret, is that they made a shot shell version of the 37 millimeter ammunition, because they weren't thinking you were going to fire the 37 millimeter gun and shoot an aircraft out of the sky. They thought you were going to fire a 37 millimeter big shotgun and shoot an aircraft out of the sky. That was the plan. Well, that works really well in shooting Japanese out of trees, or just shooting the trees because there may be Japanese in them. So they really liked the shot shell in against the Japanese. They liked places because of trees, but also I click on them, because of the mountains and high angles at times. They really liked the abilities to shoot upwards that the Sherman without finding, you know, a little bit of ground to roll your tracks up on to point it into the air. Or which you can do, but it's not always available in the right direction, you know, at the right time to rapidly do that. I remember seeing a lot of Shermans and other tanks being used as artillery pieces, in which they dig, you know, use a, I think, you know, bulldozer to dig out a scoop of earth at the right angle and park the tank in it so that they can get the guns elevated to shoot indirect fire during the Korean War. That was quite common there then, and so they can do that, but that takes a bit of preparation, where if you're just looking at fast operation, it's not going to do it. So these were pretty good, and their armor was thick enough to defeat much, if not all, of the Japanese tank mounted weapons. The Japanese had very, very poor anti-tank guns. Their really only moderately effective anti-tank guns were actually field artillery pieces, sort of like the Soviets did. The Soviets used their let me take a quick look here. Oh, well, we're getting closer to Leningrad. The Soviets used their 76 millimeter field gun as a dual purpose weapon, meaning either as an artillery piece, indirect fire relatively close, as opposed to, you know, it's sort of a, nomenclatures get messy. They don't, one nation has a good set of nomenclatures. You jump from, say, the Americans to the British, and it changes. And you go like pre-World War I, post-World War I, and your World War I and post-World War I. They get funky, but sort of as a field howitzer, as the idea of, it's more than what the German infantry gun was, which either the, you know, the really short-barreled 75, really, yeah, short round 75 millimeter, the L12 gun, not the same one that's in the you know, the Panzer IV, but it's actually a lighter, smaller version, or their bigger 150 millimeter gun. Those are very low powered charges that project the rounds, so they don't go very far. Where if you look at the 76 millimeter Soviet gun, they got a lot more powder behind it, so they'll shoot longer ranges, shooting roughly more of a round like coming out of the L24 75 millimeter gun, but with a lot more oomph behind it, so that it was a good enough in that formation, using as a you know, not a big 105 millimeter you know, proper howitzer artillery, even though it is a field gun most assuredly, as opposed to a siege gun or a fortification gun or something else. But you sort of get what I'm meaning. The Soviets did that, and then they also used the exact same gun and the exact same mounting, because it was high enough velocity as well as an anti-tank gun. Those are the ones that the Germans put on the early Marder 3s that they sent down to North Africa, which were captured Soviet guns and Soviet ammunition, because they just needed something now, today, not in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Obviously, it takes some time to get to North Africa, but if you're going to start designing and producing, it's still going to take more time, and they needed it now. So yeah, so they used the Lee/Grants in the various Pacific Islands, even when the Marines and others had complete access to Shermans, and they used Shermans, but you'll see them using Shermans and Grants side by side. Actually, Shermans and Lees. The Americans, I don't think, ever used the Grant. So you'll find some of the Grants. Remember, the Grants were the more Britishized version. They were being used in, you know, in the Burma theater, where the Americans were using the Lees. Up and through to basically the end, because they liked them for it. And they also liked all the machine guns on them, because that cupola machine gun I talked about earlier on, the guy can be entirely under armor and shoot out at the enemy. So Japanese snipers can't shoot at you. You got the main, or the turret gun, either a 37 or a machine gun, and you have they long since got rid of two semi-fixed hull 30 calibers, but then you have the main 75 millimeter gun for when you come you know, to some bunker that you get up close enough to blast apart And so lots of machine guns shooting under armor. So you can get up close and personal. A lot closer, I think, than you would against, say, the Germans, because particularly, well, however you want to call it, mid/late war, you know, they've got Panzerfaust, Panzerschrecks, and all kinds of stuff like that that you don't want to get that close to. And the idea of sticking your head and shoulders out of the gun, out of the tank, isn't quite as dangerous because you're not quite as close to the action, as it were. But yeah. So they were well liked in here, and that is sort of the American infantry tank, which this sort of got me on to talking about that. Okay, you guys. Okay, you're going to come along eventually, and you can move to there. We're going to attack here today. Because we're going to, yeah, change the calculus. Okay. Deal with that in a second. Okay. Light infantry, some Thai units, I think. Okay. And they took out a DD. Oh, good. Yes. We won, and we didn't lose a single unit. We obviously lost soldiers, but we didn't lose a single unit. Very, very good. Now, by being here also, it prevented them from moving troops in to help support this. Okay, so need to be readjusted. Oh, what is the port name? Price whatever. Oh, Osthaven. Okay. Yep, right out of Tokyo. There are other options, but I don't think they'll really save us much distance to go. The longer the distance, the more, well, more chances to be intercepted as well. Oh, you guys can get out of the theater and go get repaired back at Singapore before we lose anybody. Yeah, it means that somebody out here can escape. Couple of BBs, it looks like, and whatnot. But we'll be back. I'd rather come back with CAGs in good shape. These guys up here will be getting in much better shape. Okay, Special Forces branch upgrade. That is this one, grayed out. Very nice. Yeah, we could do air landing infantry. Help on that. What we just did. Partisan suppression. Okay. Yeah, we'll let that continue. We want to reduce them partisans. Help reduce revolt risk, yes. Okay. Okay. Get on board. Get on board. I don't know if we're going to be going to the same spot. Yeah, I think we are. Because I think all these... Oh... Get off. Okay, you guys, these stage down to here. These, no, these guys, okay. Yeah, pocket battleships, destroyers. I think, well, no, I think that'd be more useful against the British. Soviets, what do you want? Will you give them fuel for money? Sure, we'll help you fight the Nazis. They're really bad people. We're just pretending to be their friend. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. You buy that, don't you, Soviets? Okay, we're repairing a lot. Oh, good. We're now at sea, and you guys invade. We got to see these. We need to get these. Need to be part of this. So why don't we do another major strike? Yeah. Port strike. Yeah. I know you're beat up bad, but you're not. I'm hoping overwhelming numbers will count. Or concentrate. I really should have all these. Well, maybe I should probably be having all these guys concentrated here, but I really feel that I should have these guys out in various locations, hunting subs and escorting surface vessels and things like that that are moving around. But I think right here, these guys aren't the best port strikers. We can look at the stats, but okay. But them in conjunction with all the other guys. Okay, so good. Just looking at their amounts of some organization. Hopefully we'll sort of wreck some of that. You can see there's a whole big navy here. And this is the battle. Hopefully we get our interceptors up. Good, we've won that there. Also, by reducing down the port, it reduces down their ability to even bring in supplies to reorganize. Where were those interceptors? I want to see if there's a battle going on. I guess not. Okay, so out here in our invasion here, we've taken out the USS Carl Vinson, which I thought was a much more post-war carrier, but they probably just needed names because they're overbuilding. But maybe, especially for a CV, I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but maybe a CVE, I don't know. Okay, and the USS Riley. Okay, so we've taken out rebased back to here. Rocket propelled anti-tank weapons. So we're gonna get the Panzerfaust, Panzerschreck type weapons. Okay. Yeah, it's a one and done. Okay. That is good. And that opens up another tech research slot. Yeah, let's grab elastic defense. That looks good. No, okay. Thought I was moving a big group of transport. These guys. Why did? I don't remember. But I need to pick up at least one of these guys. No. I know you guys can't. I want this to come here to pick up some, and then come down here and pick up some more military police types. These guys are taking a long time, but maybe we're just not playing very long episodes. They're winning, but they're not doing that well. Okay, well, let's use the mountain division attacking into the mountains. There's a certain symmetry to it. You can support that attack. Radio's advanced. Very good. Let's come down and grab another. Defense in depth would be nice. Okay, well, we've got that done. You need escorts. I've had them stripped away from various battles. Let's come out of Singapore. That'll be better basing. Rebase to Singapore. We don't need all of them, so let's just hit R and move. These guys are still rebuilding. Yeah, I know, but I sort of need you now. Okay. Yeah, not so much for you. Come down over here and pick up a few of these guys. Okay, air defense network. Very good. Only negative is supplies and manpower, but we got lots of manpower, so we're doing well there. One of these, oh, it's under artillery, I think. Yeah, air defense network. Okay, yeah, stop that until at least 43. And light infantry branch. That's very good. That'll help a lot of capabilities, and that is grayed out, I think. Yes. So, and somebody's trying to get a hold of me. Okay, deep battle doctrine. There we go. Yeah, if it's somebody who's later watching this, no problem. Just try. I'll get to you when I'm done making the episode. Don't even know if I should garrison these guys. Okay. You know what we should do here is? No, not you. You guys come up here. Move. Let's see if we can do this. Well, let's save this before we do this. This may turn out to be a very bad blunder, and I'm just experimenting because I'm really not used to playing this. This is just not how I'm used to playing as Germany. We got all these guys over here. I didn't realize we still had these guys. Okay, yeah, that'll do it too. We'll do this. We're gonna port strike. Not so much that I think there's going to be much. Okay, submarines. Ooh, look at all that aircraft. See, that's what I'm sort of worried about. But what I want to do is reduce that. How did they fare? Pretty good, okay. USA is storming our beach in Midway. Okay. This is just what I was sort of planning on dealing with, and we're going to deal with this next episode. Come back for the Battle of Midway next episode, or Midway number 2. What I'm going to try to do to see if this can work is send like this force here. Send these guys are going to get a new mission. They were going to come up and do a port strike from here. Send up to try to take out the invading ships. All I want this garrison really here, which we can maybe attach it to there, is to hold out long enough to sink the ships. And hopefully that will drown the unit and send these guys. So we're going to vector all of these guys in and see if we can sink that. Because if we can't do some of that, that means the US eventually will just be able to come and overrun me with, you know, big, huge stacks of armored divisions invading. But for all of the time I'm bashing the Hearts of Iron AI, they did something right here. They've got 2 Marine divisions invading an island. That is the right strategy. That is what they're supposed to do. That is how they're supposed to work. Obviously, if I had taken these 2 ports here, I don't think they're close enough otherwise. And it's just various delays that I've allowed to happen. Partially wanting to trap this fleet and bombard it, partially just afraid of all that air. But yeah, we'll be back. These guys are going to stop their mission after they get done with this thing, because they're going to be striking here. Oh, well, these guys can already strike there. Yeah, so we're going to do all of this next time. Good reason to come back. Thanks for liking the videos. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.